Ihsan Kaseni is a professional astrologer, researcher, author, and lecturer. After learning Vedic and Western astrology and participating in many international events, Ihsan decided to intensively focus on reviving Persian astrology. He works on Persian and Arabic manuscripts and runs a full course on Persian astrology in a school in Tehran. To find out more, you can visit his website at www.binduastrology.com. And he is also on Facebook at a Asan KH322 and on Instagram at E Kazeni.
Well, thank you so much, Marty. And thank you, everybody. Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending this workshop, The Treasure of Medieval Astronomy. So we faced a separation of astrology and astronomy. In the Middle Ages, astrology and astronomy were basically the same thing. If you go back to the works, early astrology works, actually they are astronomy works. So the word is for both of them, and the word nujum is also for both of the branches. But later, for several reasons, these two separated by some academic situation. So they work together, mixing careful star observation and math with symbolic stories, philosophical theories, forecasts, and everyday practice. They were very together, and when they split during the scientific revolution, it was like changing astrology's DNA forever. Something is taken from astrology. In between, a lot of knowledge that connected to old and the new world was left behind and forgotten. So they actually, each part, astrologers and astronomers separated, and each of them lost something. Astrology lost more. In the division of the celestial heritage, astrology took the symbolic and mythical view of the heavens, the mythic and poetic language, the philosophical bond with traditional worldviews, the cultural influence over literature, art, and rituals, the interpretation of ancient star divination and fortune telling. And astronomy also claimed the accuracy and precision of mathematical calculations, academic credit, and systematic method of observation and data recording, the use of precise astronomical instruments, scientific models for predicting the motion of the celestial bodies, the commitment to empirically testable methods, and the standardized technical vocabulary. So astronomy took this part and astrology took this part. Each of them has a valuable part and each of them needs the other part. So after they separated, actually a big amount of astrological knowledge was forgotten and missed by the astrologers. So in the modern times, we started to rely on some astronomical data provided by NASA or some Swiss ephemeris or some modern ephemeris. And whatever they provide, we use. Whatever they don't provide, we miss. And we even don't know what information already existed in astrology and in ancient astronomy. So I have some treasure boxes here, including the Zijes and Astronomical Tables, the calendars, the Lunar Mansions, the constellations, Chronological Data, Astrolabes and Instruments, horoscope books, and the box number 8, which is very important. We will unbox it. So we go to each of these areas to see what astronomical heritage is there and how we can use them in our modern times. The fabric is like the vertical and horizontal ties together. And this is actually, the name is after the tables, which are looking like the same. And they contain a lot of, as you see here in the picture, it's like a fabric. And actually, they had a lot of astronomical data, and they were the tables that you could calculate the planetary positions for several hundred years. The most impressive aspect of the source materials for the study of medieval Oriental astronomy is an overwhelming quantity. We have thousands of books and thousands of Byzantine, Greek, Sanskrit, Hebrew, Arabic, Persian, and Turkish astronomical and astrological manuscripts exist. Many is uncatalogued collections, and most of them are untouched by modern scholarship. So, for example, when I go to the history of astrology books, or when our colleagues are talking about the history of astrology, I found it just a small portion of history of astrology, because, when I go to the digital libraries and the manuscript libraries, I see 1,000 times more manuscripts and more data. I have an objection about the history of astrology. As we learn, we study that, okay, the medieval astrology started with these astrologers, and we get some name of the early astrologers. And then we just talk about that group of early astrologers from the 6th century, 7th century, 10th centuries, 11th centuries, and so on. But there are many names in the East. There are many manuscripts, many books, many techniques, which even never mentioned in the modern history of astrology. So we are going to slowly bring those names also to the minds. In the case of Arabic material, a good deal of work has been done by Europeans, and the broad outlines of the subject have been well delineated. But anyone wishing to assist in building up a precise and detailed picture of Islamic astronomy is constrained to choose his material from amid a welter of easily available manuscripts. Here is another problem. We have some easy and easily available manuscripts that people rely on them. And there are some unreadable manuscripts, some very tough calculations that nobody goes and touch. People, prefer to do the easy work. Of these manuscript masses, it is possible to isolate a fairly well-defined group of works, the Zijes, which, in the opinion of the other is Edward Sword Kennedy, in his book, A Survey of Islamic Astronomical Tables, make up the most significant and historically rewarding subclass of the whole. A Zij consists essentially of a numerical tables and accompanying explanations sufficient to enable the practicing astronomer or astrologer to solve all the standard problems of his profession. That is, to measure time and to compute planetary and stellar positions, appearance, and eclipses. So the Zijes gives you everything you need in a software. So whatever information you need to attain to cast the charts or the transits, the progressions, and whatever is already available in a Zij. And using the Zijes, you can easily calculate the planetary position for hundreds of years. So this is a very a snapshot of a grid view of a Zij. You see the first few chapters are about the calculation of time, how to find the meridians, how to find the position of the planets on the sky. And the next chapters are like the fabrics. They're all tables. So a Zij might have 300 pages of tables, including all the tables for calculation of the tangents and cotangents, or the sine or cosine of every degrees, or sometimes every 5 minutes of degrees. Also, rising time of any degree of the zodiac in any longitude. So 60 longitudes, and let's say 8 pages for each degree of the longitude, and the tables of the houses, and so many tables are available in the Zijes. And having one Zij makes you sure that you can do all the calculations in a very easy way. By easy, I mean easy when you understand the mathematics of the Zij, and easy when you understand not the mathematics, but the instructions of the Zij. Otherwise, it took me a few years for me to figure out how it works. But when I understood, actually, it takes me 1 week to deliver the whole model. Okay, so Yeah, this is the Zij of Ologbek, and it's really interesting because this Zij is published in the Europe side by side, the Persian page on one side and the Latin translation on the other side. Even for the numbers, the tables in Farsi and Arabic letters, and also the Latin version. It's always really interesting that actually we had such a collaboration between uh, Eastern and Western part of the world. And this is the table of the fixed stars, for example, published in 1690 by Johannes Hevelli. The name of the book is Prodromus Astronomy. And these are the tables of the fixed stars. And then actually there are some very famous Zijes. We just review some of them, and we actually learn why these Zijes are very important. The first Zij is the Zij of Shah, or Zij Shahi, or Zij Shahriyar. This one was created in the Sassanid period, and we don't know who created that, but we know that actually Abu Mashar and Abu Rayhan Biruni, they had access to this Zij, and it was accessible by a few hundred years after Arabs invade to Persia. And the place of this Zij was Nimruz. Nimruz is here, just in the middle of the ancient world. These days also we have a state in Afghanistan, in the border of Iran and Afghanistan, which is called the state of Nimruz. The importance is it's a pre-Islamic Sassanid work with a strong Hindu influence, which is persisted for centuries. And it was very similar to the works of Brahmagupta, as it's said. And then the next one was the Sindahan, which was actually the translation of Surya Siddhanta. It was 770, the year that it created by Ibrahim Fazari and his son Muhammad Fazari. So something interesting about Ibrahim Fazari is that he was one of the astrologers who cooperated in the funding, laying the foundation of Baghdad, finding the chart, electional chart for creating the city of Baghdad. And this Zij is actually changed the Siddhanta instead of the Indian meridian to Baghdad meridian. It's a fundamental work and Arabic translation of an Indian Sanskrit Siddhanta, which deeply influenced the early Islamic astronomy. Something interesting about Muhammad Fazari, son of Ibrahim Fazari, is that actually he has a very detailed book on astrolabe. They were creating the astrolabes. And during the translation of this book, the Indian numbers actually delivered to Persia and then to the whole Europe. So it was the first appearance of the numbers. And then at the time of Mamun, Mamun ordered to renew the observations because the astrologers found that the precision of the Zid Shahi is not acceptable anymore. So Mamun wanted Yahya ibn Mansur or Bezist Firuzan, Persian astronomer, to observe the planetary motions and create the new Zij. So it's a famous set of tables from the commission of Caliph Mamun based on new observations. And interestingly, we have this book. The book exists, and Fuad Sezgin published that book. Then after that, the Zij of Kharazmi appeared. So Kharazmi, Muhammad ibn Musa al-Kharazmi, it's a very famous name that the name algorithm is actually taken from his name. His work was also highly influential based on a non-Ptolemaic methods. And this is the actually extant version, is a later revision. And there is very interesting. Look at the numbers here in the translation of his works. You see the numbers are the Roman numbers. But after him, the actually Arabic numbers and Persian numbers, and using the numbers started to spread in the world. His works also translated in Spanish and English, and he's a very famous mathematician. The next one is a Zij Sabi. And okay, you know the word Sabi by the Sabian symbols. Probably you have heard of Sabian symbols in the modern times. Sabians were a tribe, and then he was one of them. And the time was 900, the year 900 in Baghdad. And this is created by Battani. And this one was also a very important book. This book also translated by Carlo Alfonso Nalino, the Italian Orientalist, into Latin. The next one is Zije Kabir Hakemi, which is created at 990 in Cairo by Ali ibn Yunus. This work was very important because the synodic cycle of the planets are very precise in this work. And later I will tell you what happened next, in next few hundred years, when Nasiruddin Tusi started his own observation in Maraghe. The next one is the Zij Malik Shahi, created by Omar Khayyam. So Omar Khayyam is usually famous for his poems, Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. He's a philosopher, poem, and he gives a lot of value to the life and the existing at the present, living at the present. And he created the Zij Malik Shahi and the calendar of Malik Shahi, which changed the calendar, brings back the calendar to the zero Aries tropical, and it was the year 1090. And just 10 years after that, the Zij of Zarghali, the Zijes And Tables, created. And it's also very important. This is the Astrolabe of Zarghali. It was a very important Zij created in Spain. And after Zarghali creates this year, the King Alfonso orders the astronomers and the mathematicians to analyze that Zij and recreate his own version of Zij. So the tables were named after Alfonso of Castile, who sponsored their creation. They were compiled in Toledo, Spain, and contain astronomical data starting at June 1st, 1252, the date of coronation of the king. So the Alphonsine table is also available. And it's really interesting. The Alphonsine tables were the most popular astronomical table in Europe, and updated versions were regularly produced for 300 years. Nicholas Copernicus, known as the father of modern astronomy, bought a copy while at the University of Krakow and cared about it enough to have it professionally bound with pieces of wood and leather. So this table, you see, actually it was working for next 300 years. When something great happens with Nasiruddin Tusi. The Mughals attacked Iran and conquered Iran, and Nasiruddin Tusi suggests the king of Mughals to found an observatory in Maraghe. So he creates the observatory of Maraghe and invites all the scientists from all around the world to assist him. The king asked him to finish the writing the Zij earlier. It took only 12 years for him, but actually it was supposed to wait for a full cycle of Saturn to return. But as the king was forced him, he used the values and the variable of Ibn Yunus, which I explained here. Yes, Ibn Yunus, who created this Zij Kabir Hakemi. Nasiruddin Tusi actually took the values created by him and then actually creates this Zij el-Khani. But the Zij el-Khani was not correct enough. because some parts of the Zij didn't match creation of the Zij, they started to recreate their own Zijes. So after Zij el-Khani, tens of Zijes recreated as the corrections of Zij el-Khani. And the image you see is the handwriting of the Nasiruddin, son of Nasiruddin. His son actually wrote a copy of his Zij. Well, Nasiruddin Tusi was something really extraordinary. He wrote several astronomy and astrology works. He wrote Zij el-Khani. He created the Maragh Observatory, and he interpreted the 100 codes of the Ptolemy or Centilicoium. And he also had several philosophical and scientific books, including The Manner of the Students. I love this one, Manner of the Students, because it was the time that, the Iran was, attacked by the Mughals, and there were no teachers, there were no, let's say, people who teach their students. And then, so Nasruddin Tusi creates this Zij, and it was not perfect anyway. Then something really great happened at 1437, which Ulugh Beg, the prince, created Zij Jadid Sultani. And this was also extremely influential based on the new observations. So Zij Jadid
Great.
Sultani was really interesting because that Zij actually changed the whole standards. And it was an extremely influential work based on the new observations of Samarkand Observatory, and hundreds of copies extant. Interestingly, there are some Latin translation, Italian translation, Arabic translation, and Turkish translation. The right one is a Turkish translation of this Zij. And then for 300 years, it's interesting, for more than 300 years, we didn't have any new Zij until someone in India created a new Zij, which is known as Zij Muhammad Shahi. So Swai J. Singh, who created this Jantar Mantar, many of you might have seen this astronomical park, Jantar Mantar. Actually, he created his own Zij, and it was named in honor of the Ring of Mughal Empire, Muhammad Shah, and also incorporated contemporary European advances. So something really interesting about this Zij is that they included European modern mathematics into that. And the problem here is that actually they didn't match well. The modern science and the modern variable and the ancient ones did not match well. So this Zij also had some errors. So yeah, this is Jantar Mantar in Jaipur. So it's really interesting. Although the Jay Singh tried so hard on his Zij, but it didn't work well until a Persian guy named Ghulam Hussein Jumpuri created his new Zij. Sorry, the date here is wrong. It was 1832, not 17. It was 1832. He created a new Zij and corrected the earlier Zij Muhammad Shahi. It became the last known major Zij, preserving the traditional Persian style, but updated with improved calculations at the time when European astronomy was already spreading in Asia. So something really important about this Zij is that very accurate. A few of my friends recently started to recreate this Zij and I started to work on it. And it's very accurate, less than half a degree difference from the modern calculations. So it's something really important. So, okay, so is there any questions about the Zijas so far? Okay, so about the constellations, I don't go deeply into the problem of constellations, but there is something really interesting. We have many depictions of the constellations, and we have many detailed star numbering and the tables related to the signs. And as you see, this is, for example, the Gemini, and it's totally different from the Gemini you already know. And this is, for example, the Aquarius, and this Aquarius is totally different from the Aquarius we know about the man who holds a pot on his back. So, in analyzing analyzing the constellations, we should be very careful if we use the constellation according to the modern variations, or if we use the constellations based on the ancient ones. So, this is a Western 17th century the picture, but this is the IAU uh, International Astronomical Union version, which is not valid for astrological practice. And then let's go to the calendars. Okay, this is the image of the astrological calendar. Before I go to the astrological calendars, I want to talk about the calendars per se. Calendars are very important parts of uh, any culture. So as soon as a king was dominating, they actually could uh, easily uh, settle. They could actually first settle the country, and then they were going to handle the calendars. So they were creating their calendars, and the thing is, actually, we have in the West, we have only one calendar. In Iran, we have more than 10, 20 valid calendars. In India, we have hundreds of calendars. And so all the conversion of the calendars was always a topic of discussion. But today I'm going to talk about the astrological calendars, which are like this. So this is one page of ephemeris or a diary, astronomical, astrological, meteorological for the year of grace 1671 by John Gadbury. Here you see how the calendar was looking there. It's the calendar for September, and there are some information about the uh, months here. And on the other side, you see the quarters of the moon. Here are the number of the months, the days of the week. And then here you have the saint days, the holy days and the important days, the birthday or the dying days or any celebration related to the calendar is here. And then you have the planets, daily motions here: Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury, and the moon. For the moon, actually, after moon, you have Rahu, North Node. And here you have some aspects and weather forecasts. And on the other side, you have lunar aspects. So this is the solar page, and the other page is the lunar page. And these are the aspects to the moon. This is the Persian calendar, very similar to the calendar mentioned. And this one is a little bit different. You have a full moon chart here and the new moon chart. Actually, this is the right to left. So I start from the right page. Here, the solar ingress chart and some predictions of the months is up there. And then we have part of accidents. This part is like the Arabic parts, the lots. And astrological events are here. You see how it organized. There are three sections, 10 days each. And in each of them, you have some data. And these are some columns, Persian, Arabic, Roman, Greece, and some other calendar conversions. Then we have the planets like Sun, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and Mercury, and the North Node. And then we have the length of hours for calculation of planetary hours. On the other side, we have the chart for the new moon and chart for the full moon, and some elections of the months. The same saint days as it was in the Gadbury's calendar is here. Days and the moon signs and the time the moon moves into the other signs, and aspects to the moon, like the Gadbury, and the lunar mansions are here. And here also we have something called sapta hours, subtenary hours. Every 12 hours from the new moon belongs to a planet, and each of them has some electional qualities. And this is another calendar, but actually, you see, this is more explanatory, less planetary information, but more writings about the elections. This is more technical version, like very similar to the previous one, but with a little difference. At the top, you have critical medical days, and then you have solar ingress chart, solar chart data, days, lunar ingress, and lunar aspects, mansions, and sapta hours. On the other side, you have new chart, new moon chart, and the lunar chart data. And here is very interesting. There are several astronomical columns here, ascendant progressions, Mars progressions, Chinese cycles. It's really interesting. We have two columns for Chinese cycles, and we have a column for Persian hypothetical bodies. This is really interesting. We have the full Chinese calendar in Persian system, which is exactly the same calculations. We have heavenly branches and earthly branches of Batsi in Chinese system. We have that calendar in Persian system as well. And there are some election uh, really interesting to know, and specifically for those who use, the astrologers who present the prepared data to their clients. So all the data are in a very compact way presence here. So something like 200 elements can be found here in these calendars. And I also mentioned about the Persian hypothetical bodies. There are 7 Persian hypothetical bodies: Kate, Zuzowabe, Sarmush, Klab, Lahyani, Qutayt, and Quraim. So these 7 are, they're like the Oranian objects. So very similar to uh, trans-Neptunian planets. So it's really interesting. We already had 7 of them in Persian astrology. And it was the calendar. And let's go to the lunar mansions. But is there any questions here, Mari?
No, we're good. Please continue. I'm a little bit mind blown by the hypothetical points. This is fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There are 7. Each of them corresponds with one of the planets. And if the moon is there, actually, they are all destructive. Later, I will explain that they might be. I have some theories about them. If we had time, I can explain my theories. But anyways, we have lunar mansions, and it's the part that we really missed. We usually have 12 signs, and then we also have 28 lunar mansions. And Arabs call it manzil, Persians call it khovarda. In Sanskrit, we call it nakshatra. In English, it's mansion, and in Chinese, it's xiu, something like xiu. So it's really interesting. Each of them have 28. In Vedic system, sometimes we have 27. And sometimes they are taken equal, sometimes unequal, and they had a longest story we can actually discuss later. But the general format is that actually the whole zodiac is divided by 28 equal parts. Each part is 12 degrees and 51 minutes and 25 seconds. And when we study the lunar mansions, we should learn about like the rest of the solar astrology. We should also learn the lunar astrology. Each of the names has a meaning. Each of the mansion has several important stars, and they also have planetary rulers like the signs. And then we have some specific qualities for them, like the signs which we have, for example, fixed, mutable, and movable. In lunar mansions, we also have, for example, inner and outer mansions. So they can be used for horary astrology, for example. You cast a chart to know if someone is inside the house or outside the house, or you cast a chart if the enemy entered the city or not. And we have moist, dry, and balanced mansions, which is for weather forecasting. We have alphabets, and alphabets corresponded to the mansions for some namings, and also figuring out the names of people and creating the mantras. In the Islamic era, actually, the Quranic names of God associated to the mansions, and also the angles, and the Judeo-Christian angles, Arabic angles. So there are several models actually of association of any kind of metaphysical things to the mansions. Also some talismans for each mansions, which is not my area of work. Uh, the four elements also distributed in the mansions in a different way. And we have benefic and malefic mansions, and also the mansions for beauty and glory. It's when you want to do some mantras, actually, for some reason. If your reason is to gaining power, you use the mansions of glory. If you need some soft energies, you use the mansions of beauty. And there is another branch of studying the lunar mansions, which is called Anva, which is about the rise of mansions and set of its opponent. It's like a heliacal rising and setting of the mansions. And interestingly, we have solar lunar mansions. It's a very mind-blowing part. The sun travels every mansion exactly in 13 days. So 28 multiplied by 13 is 364. To complete the course, the mansion Hanae is considered 14 days. So one mansion is 14 days, and the rest of the mansions are 13 days. And if it's a leap year, then Semak is also 14 days. Semak and Hanae are two of the mansions. So it's really interesting because although they are lunar mansions, but we have a solar measurement for them. We also have a very famous book named The Treasure, the Book of Hermes. This book is written by Hermes Trismegistus the Wise, describes the secrets of performing magic of lunar mansions and their related elections. Therein he mentions whatever needed for the people of this craft, as the book claims. As this book is highly respected and kept in the treasury of the kings, it is known as the Treasure Book or Kitabul Makhzun. This is also a book of my interest. I translated that in English. And the history of lunar mansions doesn't end here. We have a lot of influence of the lunar mansions from India, like these chakras. These are different charts created named chakra, writing the lunar mansion on each part of it. And when the planets are creating lines or some forms, they have some meanings. And this one is actually the name of the lunar mansions on a person's body and how they actually work. And yeah, the lunar mansions are very interesting topic. So is there any questions?
Yes, there are a couple questions. Tomar asks, what are some of the best ancient sources that detail the characteristics of the lunar mansions?
Well, they are very fragmented. You know, we should find the fractions of the work, the materials from every part. Uh, there are some good works on lunar mansions in English. One of our colleagues Uh, Peter, his family name is a little bit hard. I don't have it in my mind. Actually, he recently wrote a book, very good book on lunar mansions. But the way actually the Arabs and Persians were using the lunar mansions is still a mystery, and they are all in the fractions of the other books. There is another book named "The Statements of the Moon." Uh, it's in Farsi. Created by, I forget the writer. It's in Farsi, but it's something like 200 pages only about the moon and uh, its mansions and its relationship between the moon and the other planets.
And Anthony asks, are the significations of the lunar mansions and the Hindu nakshatras similar?
Well, there are some efforts. We have some books that actually try to make them one. Specifically, the books in the 15th, 16th centuries of Iranians in India, the Persian books written in India, they tried hard to make them the same, but uh, no, they are not exactly the same. Even the Yuga Tara, which are the major fixed stars of the uh, nakshatras are different from the main fixed stars of the lunar mansion. So there are some structural differences, but although they are very similar and they can be the same, but by the way, the lunar mansions are decided to be tropical. It's very strange, but in Persian system and in Arabic system, in medieval system, actually they decided to make the lunar mansions tropical.
Great, thank you. And Shu had a question about the saints. Um, was there any connection between the saints in the West of the calendar system, or the saints of the calendar systems, the Arabic systems, and the angels, devatas of the lunar mansions?
Once again, can you read the question once again?
Yeah, I think she was asking, was there a connection between the saints of the calendar systems in the West and the angels, devatas of the lunar mansions? Was there an attempt to sort of marry the symbolism of those two systems?
I haven't seen such a thing.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to chime in. I don't mean the calendar saints of the West, but in your calendar section, there was those columns that listed saints. Yeah, so I was wondering whether they were referring to the nakshatra devatas or the angels of the lunar mansions. So no connection there. Yeah, so
This column of saints, you mean?
yes, yeah, because I can't quite
No.
read.
Yeah. It's a very, very interesting column. It talks about the birthday of the prophet, the time that Noah actually put his ship to the sea, the time that the Johannes, for example, went to the taken by some Bible characters, some Persian characters, some Arabic characters. So the Prophet of Islam moved from this city to the other city. The Jesus, for example, crucified. The time that Jesus, for example, walked on the water. So these kind of information is written here.
Right. Thank you. Very interesting.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for clarifying, Shu. Great. I think that's it for questions for now, Isan.
Okay, thank you. So we go to the chronological data. Some of these chronological data are mentioned in the astrology books, and some are in the history books, in other books, in the journey books, and in different kind of books. We have a lot of chronological data. So, for example, one of them is about the information of the horoscopes of the people, which are not necessarily mentioned in astrological books. So this is, for example, the horoscope of Abu Rayhan Biruni, according to Ghazanfar Tabrizi, in the city of Kos on the Thursday, the 3rd of Zohajjeh in the year 362 after the Hijrah. And this is interesting, this number of days since the Hijrat. Hijrat is the time, is the epoch of time for Arabs. And then it says, okay, and it was the 4th day of Elul in the year 1284 of the Greek. These number of days of that calendar. So it gives you a very detailed information in several calendars. So it makes you sure that actually if you make mistake in one of the calendars, the other calendars also existed. So it was a day of May 16 of Shahrivar in the year 342, according to one calendar, and the year 362 according to another calendar, and the year 1284 according to another calendar. And then it gives you the birth time of birth. It was 10 hours and 40 minutes after sunset. And the ascendant was 8 degrees of Virgo. The sun was in the ascendant as the Mercury in the 20th degree near the point of culmination. The moon's north node was also in the ascendant. The Jupiter was precisely in the 2nd house on his apogee. So it's really interesting because the apogee of the planets are very important, and these days we usually miss the apogees and the perigees. So sometimes astrologers use the heliocentric apogee and perigees, but actually they are aphelion and perihelion because they are according to the helion, not according to the geo. So this is the part actually we missed and we need to revive it. So such kind of information exists in some books, and having all these kind of details makes you sure that actually you have the correct information. Then we have the horoscope books. We have the books which are dedicated to horoscope of someone. Sometimes it's 20 pages, sometimes 50 pages, sometimes 200 pages. It depends who the person is and how important the person is, how much he has spent probably for that book. So what is inside the horoscope book? Some basic information about astrology, detail of births, date conversions to Arabic, Farsi, Gregorian, Jalali, Hebrew, Yazgiri, etc. Details of location and calculations of MC. Then probably the person doesn't have the exact time of birth, so rectification of birth time according to Hermes, Ptolemy, and Valens, and finding the prenatal epoch. Then details of finding planetary position from Zij. They explain every detail, how they extracted from Zij and what Zij they use. And then calculation of house systems according to 2 or 3 systems, usually including Campanus and Placidus. And finding the new moon and the full moon period to the birth, the CZG, and they cast the chart of the CZG and all the related calculations, which comes next. Actually, whatever they calculate for the main chart, also they calculate for CZG chart and the epoch chart, prenatal epoch. And then they find the latest Saturn and Jupiter conjunction period to the birth, and finding the New Year period to the conjunction. And they calculate Hilaj, Kat Khoda, and Atiye. So these 3 are very important. Hilaj is the giver of life, and Kat Khoda is the protector of life, and Atiye is the amount of life. So they carefully calculate which planet gives you the life, which planet protects your life, and which planet and how much support your life has, the quantity of your life. So they can even calculate the number of years the person may live. And then calculating all the lots or sahams related to the birth chart, as well as some important ones for other charts along with their dignities. It's really interesting. Whatever they calculate, they also write the 5 essential dignities for that. Then longitude, latitude, magnitude, and nature of around 180 fixed stars along with their dignities again. So it's really interesting because if one fixed star, for example, we know that Regulus recently moved from Leo to Virgo. So actually, if it moves from Leo to Virgo, the essential dignities of Regulus changes. And they actually mentioned that in their tables. and interpretation of the 12 houses. Then they go and interpret house by house. Then they go more on table of Fardar, the solar returns and perfections and progressions and directions for several years, maybe 60 years, 80 years. And then, then you have a very thick, full book of your life, and then you can, just turn pages and do the predictions. This kind of books created for the kings, for the nobles, and I believe that actually we should revive this tradition by first knowing how they are created that, and then we can recreate that kind of books for ourselves first, and then for the clients. And okay, so is there any questions here?
There was one question about where to find more information in English on the ancient Sabi sect and explore the relationship to the Sabian symbols. Are there any?
Well, actually, first, the Sabian symbols are something made up. They are not Sabian. They are created by Mark Jones, and actually, he chose the name Sabian for them, but they are not, originally Sabian. We have similar Sabian symbols which are not existed today, and we have some symbols of degrees which are not necessarily Sabian, but they are very ancient. For Sabians, probably maybe reading some books on Sabit ibn Urre. He was Sabian, and Battani was Sabian. Maybe in the life of these people, you can find some information about the Sabians.
Great, thank you. And I have a question about how far forward the calendar tables were created. Did they go into the future, like projecting into like our present day now, or how exactly what time span did they cover generally?
Yeah, the calendars are yearly, annual. So for 1 year, they could create a calendar, and then it will be expired for the next year. Actually, they have to create a new one. And most of the calendars are for the certain, because actually they also write the meridians and rising time and setting time of the sun. So sometimes the Islamic prayers. So actually, they create a local calendar. One calendar should be created for one city, and the other for the other city. But sometimes they also include one calendar for several cities by adding some adjustment tables. They could actually add one calendar for several cities.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So the subject of astrolabes and astronomical instruments are really interesting. Well, Astrolabe is a masterpiece of, I believe, the whole astronomy. It's like the latest, the highest technology of astronomy that includes every astronomical things in it. I can unshare my screen to actually show the astrolabe. This is an astrolabe. And something interesting about this astrolabe is that actually you can simply measure the planets by seeing from, this is the hole here, and there is another hole on the other side. So if you put your eyes next to this hole and rotate it toward a certain star, then actually you should take it, hang it like here, like this. And then here you can actually find the altitude of that star. Then you can rotate the astrolabe, and according to that star, for example, if that star is Ater, you find Ater on the surface of the astrolabe, and you actually rotate that, put it on a certain altitude. Then you can read the lines and find the exact ascendant rising here. So astrolabe is a very complicated. Actually, it should be smaller. This size, for example, is a very complicated device which has this is the zodiac. The whole zodiac. These are the fixed stars, the heads of fixed stars, and the lines under the astrolabe are the horizon line. For example, this one is the horizon line. It's the true east, the true west, true north, and this is the hour angle circle. So, for example, for every degree, you can easily convert the right ascension to declination within a simple rotation. So, if you want to, for example, calculate the progressions, you, for example, want to see in certain number of years, you go certain number of days on one of the rings, and then you can see how many degrees, how many zodiacal degrees you reach into. So it's a very super simple thing. You can simply, for example, this is the equation of time here, down there. These are the lunar mansions, and these are the tangent and cotangent conversion. These are the sine and cosine conversion. And these are the planetary over conversions. So you have all the conversions of the zodiac in this simple device. If you learn this, actually you can learn the whole mechanism of the mechanics of the skies. We have 11 great circles, and using these 11 great circles, actually you have all the 11 here on this astrolabe. And we can simply, convert all the project, all of them on this device. So it's a great achievement of the astrologers. And a colleague of mine started to create this kind of astrolabes. And at first, actually, I bought it like a luxury toy. And it's a very simple toy that, it's very good. It's something like the old man's instruments. But then I noticed, no, it really works. And then we started to collaborate together to create new surfaces, new plates, and we started to learn how to actually solve very complicated equations simply by rotating these parts of this astrolabe. So I found it very essential to have it in my course in the Medieval Essentials. We also simplified that like a do-it-yourself, creating your own astrolabe. It's not the perfect product, but actually you can make something for yourself for daily practice. You can print and actually put the parts together. And this is a very useful instrument that we can have.
Jan is very interested. She wants to know where she can purchase an astrolabe like the one you just showed us.
Yeah. Well, actually, there are some websites that actually sell the astrolabe. My friend who makes these also, I can send you the email of him. You can actually directly contact him. And there are also, actually, what we are going to do is to create more and more new plates. Actually, I believe a full library of astrological calculations can be easily included in the astrolabe. And we have created several versions, like the black ones, this is the black one, like the plastic one, this is the wooden one. And then actually I noticed that we can have this one, for example, the big one for this is not a usable astrolabe. This is just for trainers, for training, showing on the camera. And the thing is, I believe that it gives us the bodily experience of astrology. You feel the rotation, you have it in your hand, you hang it in front of you, you look toward the planet. So it's a very wonderful experience actually using the astrolabes.
I have a question. When did astrolabes first appear? When were they first being made regularly?
Well, there are some legends about the astrolabes that actually Ptolemy actually dropped his armillary sphere, and his horse started to actually put a step on it, and then it becomes a flat, and then they noticed that they can create that like this. But it says that Hipparchus used the astrolabe in his observation, and Ibrahim Fazari and his son actually were using astrolabes. The first treatise on astrolabe written by Muhammad Fazari, the son of Ibrahim Fazari. And look at this. This is a Turkish observatory. This guy here holds the astrolabe. The other one uses the sextant, and the quarter. This quarter is very easy. Let me see if I have it here. Yes. This quarter is very easy to use. Let me show you. You want to observe one object, you simply, there's a pendulum here. You simply rotate, look at the object like this. You simply look at the object, and when you find the correct angle, then you simply rotate it. When you rotate it, you can read the degree belt here. It shows the degree of altitude. Very easy. It's the easiest version of doing things. You can do the same with the astrolabe. And each of the astronomical instruments are very easy to use. This is the you see, this is the quarter here. And we also have the globes and the other instruments. So each of the instruments are very easy to use when we understand that. And it's very, enjoyable. Okay, so is there any questions so far? Because we're going to unbox.
I think we're good for now. Please, let's move to chest number 8.
Yeah. Okay, so chest number 8 has dices and codices. I start with the codices. There are some books named Codex, and it's a bounded materials from various writers. It's like a various artists playlist from 60s, 70s, from, for example, Pink Floyd to Ed Sheeran. You play everything. And then it has geography, mathematics, poetry, astronomy, astrology, and whatever. So in between of these collections, the people, the astrologers and the astronomers, and it's like the memory, daily writings of some people, they took the most important part of their astrological experience, wrote in these codexes. So usually when you go to the library, it's just written the codex number 12, codex number 15, and so on. But it's really interesting because when you turn pages, suddenly you find something interesting. So the last thing I found, I want to share with you, is called the color of Nowruz. Nowruz is the 21st March, when the sun enters to Aries. And the color of Nowruz is a fashion color. It's like the color of the year, like the Pantone color of the year. It tells you, according to the ascendant, according to the planets, which color you should use for that year. So you can actually fashionize the celebration of Nowruz using that kind of color, using essential dignities of the planet, the Almuten planet, and so on. So, I found it, I don't know who wrote that. I don't know which time they used that, but it was in a page in a codex. So it was really interesting. And there is something else. When you study medieval astrology, you often see it's very sharp writings. It's like very scientific, very classified, very carefully philosophical and logical details are there. And then you ask the question that, okay, where is the place of intuition in medieval astrology? And the place of intuition here is in this kind of dices. It's very similar to the tarot cards. It's very similar to the pendulum techniques. Actually, people using their intuitions to actually answer the questions. So this kind of dice is called geomancy or ram. And there are several ways to create a chart of RAM. First, actually, we have two kind of geomancy: astrological geomancy and regular geomancy. So in astrological geomancy, we actually follow the astrological rules. Each of the figures has a astrological meaning correlated to a planet, a sign, a house. And the figures are, as you see here in the picture, they are consisted of four elements. Like the I Ching, which has 6 lines, the geomancy has 4 lines. And they're line and dots. You see line, line, dot, 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 line, dot, 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 dot. So there are several ways to create the chart. One way is actually using astrological geomancy dice, like what I have in my hand. You just roll the dice and then drop it on the surface and read the figures. Another way is like this picture. You can put the dots on a paper and then count the odd and even numbers. You can actually roll some beans, for example, any kind of small pieces of item, random numbers. Sometimes if I don't want to do all of these, actually I ask the person, give me 4 numbers. The person says 7, 6, 2, 1. Then I make them odd and even and cast the figure. So this is a very interesting subject. Nasiruddin Tusi says, all that is perceived in the realm of intellect and senses is contained within the 16 figures of geomancy. So usually when we say, for example, astrolabe, we usually say Ramlan astrolabe. Ram is the Arabic name for geomancy. So it's a very interesting subject. I noticed that recently some of our colleagues started to teach this subject along with astrological practices, and I'm very happy for this. So I believe that actually it will come to the practice again very soon, and it's a very essential part of medieval practice. So, Mari, do we have any questions?
Elena asks if you, in your own practice, use other divination techniques, have integrated like the tarot or I Ching.
Well, I practice tarot and I Ching and other divination practices, but geomancy is something that deeply connected to astrology. At the very first definition, we say geomancy is the child of astrology because it has houses, it has figures, and even, for example, we have planetary aspects in geomancy. So every figures with the 3 distances, with the 4 distances in the houses, in the 5th house, in the 3rd house, in the 7th house, they are actually the opposition, the trine, the sextile. And we also have conjunction, but the conjunction here is very interesting. It's the 2nd house is the conjunction. 2 adjacent figures are considered as conjunction. So this is also a very quick model of what I love about geomancy is that it's a very quick model of horary. You immediately cast a horary chart and you very sharply answer to the horary chart based on a random chart created by these dots and lines. And then you can also go deeper, and the terminology is very similar to the horary terminology. So it's a very, it's completing your horary actually experience. And something really interesting is that actually it usually matches with the transits. So when you actually cast a geomancy chart, you can also open a horary chart and you see these two are matching.
Wow, that's amazing. That really
Yeah.
begs the question of the nature of reality. So astrology and geomancy always does. So I'm blown away by the sophisticated scientific minds who are very much open to using intuition and intuitive divination tools simultaneously. It's so different from our siloed experience post-Enlightenment in the West.
Yeah, exactly. And as we are going to learn medieval astrology, we need to get more acquaintance with the medieval quality of practice, the way they really practice, they really, their mindset.
Anthony asks, did the ancient Persian texts use tropical or sidereal zodiac?
Well, they're definitely tropical.
And Butter wants to know where they can buy some geomancy dices. They look beautiful.
Yeah, actually, you can buy that from somewhere, and you can easily make it yourself. It's like the simple, simple dices. You can easily actually you can search on the internet and create it by yourself. Also, you can buy it in the Amazon or other websites.
Great, that's fantastic. People are very excited in the chat. They want to know more about geomancy.
Yeah, sure. Actually, we have it in our Medieval Essentials course. We have a section on one session for geomancy, and we practice that. For Astrolabe also, we have one session on Astrolabe, and something very important about the Astrolabes is about the testing Astrolabes, and for the Geomancy dice is also testing the Geomancy dice. So there are some simple rules. For example, if you put, for example, ascendant on a certain degree, you should see a certain degree on a 52 degrees altitude on the west, for example. So if we test, there are several items that test all the coordinations, and if the astrolabe passes these tests, the astrolabe is correct. For the dices also, we should actually turn the dices to make sure there is no duplicated and there is a correct order of the dots. And if they actually pass the test, the dices are also correct.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. You can cross-reference the systems for veracity.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
amazing. Well, I would like to invite Shu on because we wanted to have a little discussion at the end here about the medieval certificate and answer any questions people might have about upcoming courses. And I know that we have Anthony Lewis here as well, and he will be teaching a class in the winter term for the medieval certificate. So that's very exciting. If anybody has questions for any of the instructors, they are present. Shu, do you mind hopping on? And
Sure. Thank you. And Anthony, you're welcome to hop on too if you'd like to join us. But perhaps maybe I could just talk a little bit about our thinking around developing this certificate. It's sort of happened quite organically, and yes, hi Anthony. Just as a segue to Ehsan's last section, we are sort of in the works of developing more of these traditional crafts, for want of a better, we haven't quite thought of like what we're going to call it yet, because like Ehsan said, these crafts were so important as part of the way of the astrologers back in the medieval times. So it would be a shame not to actually delve into these topics of divination, alchemy, and such topics like that. So that's something that's in the pipeline. However, for this particular certificate, we really wanted to explore just the incredible works that were created, and especially from that Persian Arabic period that then led to the later medieval Latin period. And like I mentioned before, Ehsan and I met because I had seen all of these astrologers that I had no idea about, and he said, well, there's actually a lot that we don't know in the West, and we're so lucky that in this faculty we have Ehsan, who is a translator himself, bringing Persian translations to the modern world, not just modern English, but modern language for the first time. Anthony also translates Latin, I believe. And we also have Ona Dosa, who is now working on bringing his Ottoman Empire translations. So, you know, I feel like this medieval certificate is really doing such great work to reconstruct, you know, our heritage as what we know from the West. So a little bit about the progression of the course, I guess. Starts with Medieval Essentials 1, which I will teach to really get people into the mindset of a medieval astrologer, because it is, from what we know, what we're taught in foundational courses and what we hear of in Western astrology circles, the medieval astrologer did think quite differently. There's a whole heap of, say, different significators being thrown in and different analytical tools thrown in. And it's not to say one's better than the other. It's more just to enrich what we already know. And I think my course is really about medieval chart delineation, and it prepares the student for more complex subjects like what Ehsan's teaching, Ona, and then Anthony will be coming in to teach primary directions, which is a fantastic prediction system. There are some other prediction systems being taught in this certificate, like advanced perfections and Fidaria as well. And Ehsan's also going to be teaching electional astrology, what was it, like a 11-point system of electional astrology that was it 11 or 7? I can't quite remember.
Okay, it's a 7-layer.
7 layers, right. And Ona will be teaching mundane astrology, which is what he's incredibly adept at. So yeah, so that's the certificate in a nutshell. Of course, you can cherry pick and do courses within that interest you, that you feel that might extend your toolbox, but we would love to see you come through this whole system so that we can, you know, I guess, enrich and develop our astrological lineage in our daily practice. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Anthony, to that, and what you might be wanting to cover.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. My course is called An Introduction to Primary Directions because it is a vast subject. It spans historically the very beginnings of Hellenistic astrology, where it was introduced to primarily to determine length of life. The idea being, before you cast a chart, it doesn't make sense to predict a long-term future for someone who may die young. So this was a focus early on. Be sure the person you're speaking to will live long enough to appreciate what you're delineating in the chart. And then it extended to use, throughout the Hellenistic period, the medieval period, and the Renaissance period for general predictions. And I think was probably the primary prediction method, at least in European medieval and Renaissance astrology. It was the cornerstone for predictions. Of course, starting with the birth chart, you always begin by interpreting the birth chart, and the directions tell you when the natal promise is likely to manifest in the lifetime of the individual. And so my goal is to introduce the concept, make sure people understand what a primary direction is, not too much focus on the math, which can get very complicated, and there's good software now to calculate, because we could spend 5 weeks going over the formulas and how to calculate everything. It really is more of a conceptual course. So by the end, I'm hoping students will understand what primary directions are, the various varieties of directions and timing techniques, and how they're used in basically predictive work in astrology.
Thanks, Anthony. That's great. We're very much looking forward to it. And I think you're running your course in January 2026.
Right,
Is that
January,
right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Ehsan, you've also you've given us a great insight about the things that are going to be covered in Medieval Essentials 2 today. So basically what Ehsan has been delivering today in this presentation is a snapshot of a beer sampler of what's happening in the Medieval Essentials 2, but you are also going to be teaching the electional astrology. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what that might entail? Oh, you're muted, Ehsan.
Yeah. Actually, this was a very, a small, as you said, a small snap shot of the whole course. In the course, actually, we are going to review that 11 circles. We actually see how to create the astrolabes and how each of the lines of the astrolabe is created. Something people actually ask for buying the astrolabes. I should say that every astrolabe has a created for a certain longitude. So actually, if you want to buy an astrolabe, you should know which actually how this astrolabe created. We actually created something like a do-it-yourself for astrolabe. I give you even actually I give you a video to how to create, how to draw the lines, each line of the astrolabe using your compass. So it's a lot of fun. You can also print the surface for your certain longitude, certain latitude, sorry. And then you can actually print that and put it on some place with the materials you want and have your own astrolabe. And also, it's really important, for example, how the distance of the lines are, how the rulers are decided to be. Some people prefer to have 1 degree or 2 degree lines, and some people prefer to have 5 or 10 degrees lines. And for example, I prefer 5 degrees. At first, I thought maybe 1 degree is better, but after practicing, in practice, I noticed that the 5 degrees better. So even the size of astrolabe should be discussed. I actually suggest if you want to actually attend the course, don't buy your astrolabe before the course. And there actually you can decide what kind of astrolabe you need.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah. And what about the electional course? Did you want to speak a little bit about what you're teaching in the electional?
Yeah, for the electional course, actually it was a big discussion amongst the actually astrologers for how to decide about the elections. And Nasiruddin Tusi created a rule of a 7-layer model to actually discuss the elections. So we have some restricted models of elections, we have some easy models of elections, and we have some models of election based on your personal chart. So sometimes we include your own chart as a part of election. Sometimes we ignore your chart and just rely on the planetary positions. And we discuss all of these models to actually give the students the broader view of how they can use their elections.
That's great. And I also wanted to add that this course is essentially, this certificate is all entirely based on source material. So either your own personal translations, Ehsan, Anthony, Ona does bring in some of his Ottoman translations into his significator course too. But yeah, that's one of the things that we have really defined this whole certificate by, is to try and get back to those sources and look at the astrology from that level. And not all sources do agree either. So it's also what I find really interesting, like, and you mentioned this at the beginning, Ehsan, just that intersection with the Indian Vedic systems as well, because we forget that early Persian Sasanian period was such a melting pot of cultures of the East and the West, and that's something that I have a really strong interest in exploring more. And there is just not enough information about what was happening at that time. Obviously, it was such a long time ago, but also really interested to learn more about the ancient Chinese systems, because I went and grabbed my, in China we, use the I Ching yarrow sticks, and also things like moon blocks were also like their form of geomancy to be able to test out like a so-called horary system to double check your answers. So we're excited to sort of bring in more of those practices into these courses eventually. But yes, we are at our infancy. We're about to launch this September. So yeah, we hope to see you there. If there's anyone that have any questions about it, we're happy to answer. But yeah.
I have one point to add, which is actually about the materials I used in the course. Actually, the major stream of the materials I use are from Arabic and Persian sources. But in this between, actually, I will introduce a lot of English translations, a lot of English works. I cannot rely on the English translations. I have a lot of objections in their point of views, and the amount of materials I had access is a huge amount of materials I have in Farsi and Arabic, so I relied on them more. But in this between, I also reviewed the English materials, and I will give you a full list of the materials, English materials that actually students can study later.
Excellent. Yes, that would be very handy. Yeah, it is a source of frustration, isn't it, for us English speakers to be able to not have, the full picture. But hopefully this will develop astrologers of all different languages that might be able to work on these translation projects.
Actually, we are at the very beginning of the way, we are just started.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
There
we
are
might
some
not see it in
questions
our
popping
lifetime.
up. There's some questions and discussion popping up. Angela had asked if there were any other sources of information on the Persian hypothetical bodies in English or otherwise.
Well, I have an article on it. I can share the article with you.
Fantastic. And Victor asked, other than transits, what predictive techniques were used on the Zij, and any info on techniques that the Ulugh Zij has?
Well, actually, the stages are not for the prediction. They are for preparing the planetary positions, and they are for preparing the transitions and the different models of progressions, perfections, and predicting the eclipses and actually converting the coordinations and so on. So Zijes doesn't have any predictive technique, but at the end of the book, actually he gives some tables of Fardar, actually the mundane Fardars and the mundane progressions.
Great, thank you. And Elena asks, she says, many of us rely on Ben Dyke's translations of Arabic and Persian astrologers. Do they grab the correct essence of the teachings, in your opinion?
Well, they're very good books, very good translations. He's very literated. And but the thing is, actually, there are just few names amongst the many names. So, for example, Abu Mashar Sahl and Abu Ali Khayyat, they are great astrologers, but there are many other astrologers with the same level and with a more extended uh, use amongst more popularity among the Persian and Arabic astrologers of the next centuries, which are not known in the West. So I also actually rely on their works.
Great, thank you. And it looks like perhaps everyone has exhausted their questions. We're seeing some thank yous. Thank you, Azan. This was amazing. I always have my mind blown open and my world opened when you present. So I really appreciate you taking the time and coming and teaching us. It's excellent subject matter.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here.
There's a good question here.
Yep.
I don't know if you.
Yeah, it just came in. Is there a prerequisite for Medieval 2, such as completing Medieval 1 first, or is it possible to take both courses at the same time? Well, they all are offered staggered this coming term. Shoes class starts September 28th, and Asan's class starts November 2nd, I believe. So you can do both and take Medieval Essentials 1 and have it followed up by 2.
Yeah. That's if you want the certification at the end for the medieval certificate, yes. But yes, the certificate's also open if you wanted to just say do primary directions or just learn about the significators, etc. So entirely up to you.
Yeah, you can take the classes a la carte, so to speak.
Yes, that's right. That's a good way of saying it.
But I think too, there are some prerequisites. I'm trying to find the page. What would you want? I mean, if somebody wanted to go straight to Medieval Essentials 2 or to 1, what are the bare minimums that is important to come into the class with?
Yeah, I think Ehsan and I looked at this and we classed it as the Kepler system of high beginner. And that means you really need to have those core foundational subjects under your belt quite comfortably. Signs, planets, houses, dignities, aspects, to be able to, look at a chart and grasp some, meaning from it. But the certificate really is then to extend what you already know, even very simple concepts of signs, as you might have, seen today, and houses. Like, we will then extend that and open up a whole new world of what signs and houses actually mean and how they were derived and how they can be used and how the medieval astrologer looked at those as part of their symbolic tool belt to come to a judgment of a chart. So yes, you do have to have your basics quite comfortably, I would say. But having said that, I have been teaching the foundational, the fundamentals 1 course recently, and so I'm taking into consideration when designing this course, especially my medieval 1, what people do know if you've come through the Kepler system. So it is kind of designed. When I was designing the certificate, I was designing it in mind of the student coming through fundamentals 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then having to make a decision of which stream to specialize in. So I'm kind of keeping that in mind too, as I was developing this course. So I think as a teacher, we're always really interested in not always teaching something new all the time, but it's about extending it. So like, for example, what Anthony might be teaching in his primary directions course, covering things like, say, bounds. We will already be covering bounds in Medieval Essentials 1, but taking bounds to the next level through primary directions, and it just keeps expanding like the universe. So yeah.
I would add to that some basic astronomy would be important. What is
Absolutely, yes.
What is the celestial sphere? What is the equator? What is the ecliptic? And
absolutely, yes, totally. And Ehsan and I will both cover a little bit of that too. More so in Ehsan's course, you would cover the astronomy aspects of the. You've got spherical astronomy as part of your course offering. Yes.
And Lori just popped in the chat. I was going to mention we have an infographic of skill levels and how we've started classifying the classes, so you can sort of see where you're at on that graphic and place yourself, and that's accessible through a link in every store item as well on the KeplerCollege store page. Anything else? Any more questions? Well, once again, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, the faculty. This is such a pleasure to host everyone and have this discussion here. Thank you for joining us and illuminating us. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Shu.
Thanks, Anthony, for joining us too.
Sure. And thank you, Ehsan. It was a great lecture.
Yes, great.
Thank you so much.
As always, Ehsan.
Okay. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.